I'm willing to be used by the Spirit of God. That's our reasonable service, what he said at the beginning. But it takes a renewing of mind to recognize that and to put out of our way the way we think. Don't pick up the way the world thinks the church should be. Pick up the way I want it to be. And I want it to be free, and I want my gifts manifested. I want my powers manifested. Because if it had anything to do with numbers, 80,000 members is going to be hard to beat. I don't care who you are. That's a lot of members, and there's 1 million in that one over in China. But why don't they see the powers and the gifts and all the things manifested continually in them churches, in them bodies, flowing like rivers of living water like it was in his first church, just going everywhere? Why do they not see them like that? Why is not everybody full of joy? Why is not everybody full of the Spirit? Why is not everybody full of the fruits? Why? Because is that the way we think it should be? That it requires that? I think that God is saying until you learn to get your mind renewed and be appreciative of what you have, I'm not going to add one bit to you. I'm not going to do anything. If you can't learn to be appreciative of what I've given you, and you can't learn to get your mind renewed that you have everything that you need right now, why would I even want to add to somebody that won't even appreciate what they got now? They won't appreciate what abilities they have now. Because when you look at the list of the people, look on that right side of the bulletin that names all the people that's got positions in this church. Did not every one of them stay? How did that happen? Was that just by chance that happened? It was those that he chose out and the ones that was in positions that he kept aboard and kept in this church? Or was it just pure luck? Which one was it? But do we allow our minds to pull us, and do we recognize how important each and every one of us really is? Or are we allowing, because we're going through a bad situation, a bad time, or we don't have a big number, do we allow ourselves to be put down? Let the enemy bring us down into a spot. Do you agree or disagree? Anyone? Do you limit God by the number of people that's present? Do you limit Him? Thinking that there's only so much can be done because there's only 2 or 3 present? That we might as well just get through what we need to and get out of here. There ain't nothing going to happen today. Might as well just skip it on out.
I've been to a large church. It's really hard to get in.
To a service?
And it is in a small church.
Yeah. And he's telling us, you know what he's telling us, Pat? Renew our mind and get in. Don't sit back. Don't sit back. Get in, encourage yourself, and renew your mind and get into me. Get into me. Wade out deeper into the water like Jeremy was talking the other day. Ankle, why are we having all these ankle injuries? Is it because we're only walking in ankle deep water? That everybody's getting hurt in ankles and they're afraid to wade out a little bit deeper in the water? They're afraid of what things the enemy's going to throw at them if they go out into their loins with the Spirit of God like he did in Ezekiel. When he showed Ezekiel and he said, if you'll go out, you can swim in me if you want to. Are we afraid we'll drown? Are we afraid of all these things at the deeper? And I know there are people like that. That they're in a comfort zone. They're saying, I've got enough troubles as it is. I just don't want to go out no deeper. If I go out any deeper, the enemy's going to come more at me than what he's ever come at me. And you're right, he will. But you're going to have more victories. You're going to have more greater things. But it's just your reasonable service to be a sacrifice and do what God wants you to do. To sacrifice yourself and say, God, whatever you want, that's what I'll do. Whatever you want. That's what I'm a willing vessel to do. Are we are we even doing our reasonable service that God requires of us? As he says in verse 6, having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, whether prophesy, let us prophesy according to the proportions of faith. or ministering, let us wait on our ministering, or he that teacheth on teaching, or he that exhorteth on exhortation, he that giveth, let him do it with the simplicity, he that ruleth with the diligence, he that showeth mercy with the cheerfulness. Let love be without disposition. Abhor what which is evil, cleave to that which is good. Be kindly affectionate one to another with brotherly love, in honor, preferring one another. Do we even honor and prefer one another when it comes down to the gifts or the things of what God wants to do in us? Or are we letting what we've got in our life get us tied up that we can't even be willing vessel to give out to the members, to the church? Be a willing vessel, as he said at the very beginning. It is our reasonable service for us to sacrifice ourselves for whatever God wants to do. It's our reasonable service. We all have a measure of faith, he said. He all said that every member is important. And he said that it is our duties to help one another and honor one another. How important is honor? Does anybody even recognize how important honor is to the people or to leadership or to anything? How important is to honor? If they didn't honor what Joshua said, what would they have happened when they marched around Jericho? The walls wouldn't have come down. If they had not knew that Joshua heard from God and done exactly. When King David, he didn't have the cloud by day and fire by night. They just trusted that he knew what he was talking about and he was doing what he's talking about. Even though the first time he brought the ark in, a man was killed. They still trusted this man. And whatever he said, they did it. Because they honored him and what he had. And they went with whatever he said, no matter what it was. So how important is it to honor whenever the Lord uses gifts through people, through ministries through people? How important is it to respect what they're given and what they're telling us about what we need to do? That's how we get our truth, and whether we accept it or not. That's how a lot of people didn't want the truth, and it destroyed a lot of people that had no honor in the truth. They didn't want it. They didn't want the truth. They didn't want to hear it. They got the mindset on one way of how service is going to be, and you're not going to change me. This is the way it's going to be. This is the way it's got to be. This is the way man has done it for this many generations, so it must be right. So is the majority right all the time? Is the majority right in what they do all the time? If they were, then we'd be seeing the powers, the gifts, and the things manifested by the number of so-called believers that's in this world today. Why are they not everybody that you meet? How many have you met that you really see the real fruit in? The real gifts in? The real power of God being used in their life? How many people have you met that really have it? That's really got what Christ promised? Have you met anybody yet? Or have we got wrapped up in the world? And that's what he said, watch out. In that second verse. And the only way you can keep from it is renewing your mind to keep yourself from following what the world is trying to do. What the world is trying to pull you into. And the trickery of the enemy trying to pull you down into a place to where you think there is no hope, no chance, no way, no how that God is able to do what He's able to do. Have we let our mind be trapped by the enemy, in other words? Have we let him pull us away from the truth and away from where God is wanting to take us to? Have we allowed it? And what we got to do is start renewing the mind with truth, with how God wants us free, how He wants us to enjoy the powers, how He wants us to enjoy the fruits of the Spirit, the promised inheritance, how He wants us to quit paying attention to what we see and walk by faith. Start encouraging self and start picking ourselves up and quit letting the enemy keep us down. I can sense it. I can feel it in you when I pray for you, when I meet you, when I'm around you. I can sense the enemy pulling you down in your mind and pulling you down with the things going on that Man, and the God is saying unto you,